Alright, this is kind of just a little discussion about a small little poem by T.S. Eliot. Um, I've kind of been wanting to do more discussions about literature or literary poetry and prose works here on this channel, and I've discussed some Vonnegut, and I kind of want to branch out into discuss some poetry, I guess. The book that I turned the book back into the library with it was the Norton Critical edition, and it had a lot of other works in there. Like the actual text was like this much, and then the rest of the critical stuff was like this much. It had works from like because in that poem he references so many different things. It was written in like 1922 I think, or to the 20s, and Eliot he has he has four or five sections in it, and the fourth section is only one vignette, but the other five have a multiple vignette. Now, a vignette, Vignette, is something that it's like a chunk of writing that fades in and then just kind of fades out, and he'll start with one vignette, fade that out, and then go someplace totally different in the next vignette, and then do the same thing again, because each one will fade in and fade out, and then something totally different will happen, and various interpretations have been talked about of this poem, The Wasteland, and various people have thought about it, because it's not that easy of a work to think about. Personally, when I read poetry and prose and try to think about it as to what is going on, I do it from a deconstructive lens, and I don't think about what the author was trying to do, but I think about what the text does, but what the text does by itself, and not what any one canonical interpretation or analysis does. So, but personally, it what the text has said. I mean, it's just one interpretation of the text, not of what Eliot was doing, but of the text, is that back then there were a lot of things that you should know if you were a good, regular person of society, and if you were like a regular contributed person, then you should know about various works in literature. He refers to the Bible. He refers to ancient works and really old works that personally, right in today, you wouldn't really know about, because a lot has happened since he wrote that you wouldn't be expected to know today. But if you are a functioning person in society today, then there are things that you should know about. You should know who Vonnegut is. You should know who Steinbeck and Hemingway are. You should know who Joyce and Tolstoy are. You should, I guess, have some kind of intelligent background in your life. It doesn't have to be Hemingway or Tolstoy. You just have to be you have to be intelligent in some way or other. I guess in this video I want to talk about the way the text had an impression on me, and I guess when I say deconstructive lens, I'm thinking about this stack of books I have right there ish. Yeah, right there, next to my finger. There, the big one with the orange one. Derrida, he says that we shouldn't think of any one thing or meaning as true. Now, I have a video where I talk about deconstructive reading of poetry and prose. Now, you can go to that if you want to, I guess, know the way I read and think about poetry and prose. But it's about, according to Derrida, I will at least say this: he wants you to not think about what the author says or what any canonical interpreter says. It's about what the text says by itself, and nothing else. And the text said to me that there are a lot of things that he is referring to, and he does, and I guess that's being done because he knows a lot. He knows a lot of different things, and that the writer is a intelligent person, and that a person who is functional in society should be intelligent in some way or other. Now that could be right, could be wrong, because through the way I look at it through that dirty and deconstructive lens, there's no one thought or interpretation about any work that is correct. But to me, you should be functionally in that you should be intelligent. It's about being intelligent in some way or other, and not being a stupid person. And hopefully that the place is kind of the world is going is not very well off because people don't have intelligence in some form, and that if the writer of this thing, Eliot, were to be here today, he would not be too happy, because I'm sure that the world is way worse off, and there's way much more stupidity and ignorance here in this time than there was in his time. But I mean, personally, the way I judge a poet or a set of poets' works is, does the text paint a picture in your mind? If the text doesn't paint a picture in your mind, then for me he's not a very good poet. If he doesn't paint a picture in your mind, he's not a very good poet. However, if he paints a picture in your mind, however it doesn't strike a chord, then the poet is probably good, but just isn't for me. For instance, Billy Collins. His poetry does strike a picture in me. It does paint a picture in my mind. However, his poetry doesn't really strike any chords in me. Therefore, he's not my favorite poet. I know he's a good poet to many, but to me, he's not my favorite. Eliot, however, his poetry does paint a picture, and it does really strike a chord to me. So I would say that is one of the best poets, or one of the best poems I've really ever read, is The Wasteland. And the message that the text possibly sends, and I say possibly because I don't want to say that I'm being truthful or correct because of Mr. Derrida over there, I would say that the text sends a message that you should you should know things. I guess you should. If you were back in his time, you should know what the text is saying. And the edition that I read had extra notes in it, where if he would refer to something, there would be a footnote which would tell you where he's referring to. And however, Eliot did have notes, but not to the extent that the one that I read did. So if you were in his time, you should know what the hell he is talking about, and you should know that if he mentions a name or puts, and he does use some phrases, he will take a line out of a text that he has read and put it in his poem. And if you were back in his time, you should know who the hell he's quoting, or who the hell he's talking about. And he does use some. He did use some Shakespeare, I believe, too. But either way, I think it's a great poem. I think it's a really great poem, and I want to read some more by Eliot. So if you do like poetry at all, if you like poetry, I think that he is very, very good to read. He might not strike a chord in you, or his poetry might not do things for you, because everybody's different, and everybody has different tastes. And some people don't even like poetry. So his a version of that is available for free on Kindle. However, if you want something more substantial, I would go for the Norton Critical edition, and I think I might actually purchase that for my own owning, because I checked it out at the library, and I might purchase that edition. So if you have any comments on Eliot's Wasteland, or you have any, or how that poem affected you, not how Eliot affected you, because the way I would see things of him, this is just text by itself and not Eliot's text, or not what Eliot was trying to say, which is what the text is by itself. So if you have any things that you want to say that the poet did for, or that the text did for you, or how you liked it, just comment below. Or if you want to just give your own interpretation, I would love to discuss with you, because whenever you comment, I get an email. If your comment is constructive, then I will respond. Thank you.